just been having an absolutely incredible chat off air, actually, with Bruce Fordyce. And we'll chat to him now because, indeed, 25,000 odd runners will be lining up for the Comrades Marathon in front of the Pietermaritzburg City Hall. That's happening on Sunday morning. I won't be doing it. I'll be here, unfortunately. But still, very significant because athletes from around the world, at least more than 80 countries, will be testing their spirit and endurance as they take on that near 90-kilometer run downhill from Pietermaritzburg to Durban. Adding to the challenge, runners will now have to brave what is a cold front expected to sweep across parts of KwaZulu-Natal this weekend, according to the South African Weather Service. It's the ultimate human race. Why don't we talk to the man himself, the most iconic of runners then in particularly this race then. Bruce Fordyce, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. This weekend's going to be massive. 98 years of the Comrades Marathon. How significant a year is this?
Well, this is very significant this year because it is really the dress rehearsal run for 2027. So 2027 will be a down run and it will be the 100th running. And this is the last chance really for the organizers, for the runners, for everyone involved to have a look-see at what the problems might be in 2 years' time. So next year will be an up run from Durban to Pietermaritzburg, but then the following year, the 100th, will be a down run, as is Sunday's run, a down run. So we get a good opportunity to have a look and see how things are working. There's a new start, there's a new finish, there are several alterations on the route along the way, and this is going to be a very significant race from that point of view to see how well things pan out.
Yeah, but the important landmarks haven't changed, have they? I mean, Polly Shorts, what is it? Camper Down, Botha's Hill, what is it? Cowie's Hill. All of the main ones haven't changed, right?
Well, Polly Shorts is not a significant hill this year because it's a down run.
Well,
we run down.
Yeah.
Camper Down is a village that we run through on the way. So the major landmarks in the down run are in Changa 1 and 2 at halfway. Those are huge climbs. Cowie's Hill just after Pinetown, 45th cutting right near at the end of the race. Pinetown itself. And then the finish, of course, just before the Moses Mabhida Stadium, a new finish there. We'll be having a look at that as a significant milestone in the race.
You know, it seems as though as a country, we keep asking ourselves, we keep going through rough times and we keep asking ourselves how exactly we're going to get through. And there's so many scourges and elements that we keep having to talk through as a country. But it seems for sports, we're just so able to have this massive camaraderie. And I don't know if you're able to see these visuals, but just outside the expo center there where people are collecting their numbers, there's dancing, there's cheering, there's excitement. Just talk to me about how much camaraderie the Comrades Marathon ultimately brings about and you see all around.
Well, the Comrades Marathon's been showing our politicians what South Africa can be for many years now. It was for many years a white male-only race, but from 1975 it was open to all races and to men and women. And since then, it's been a glowing example of what we could be as a country. And nowhere, for me, was that better illustrated than at the end of last year's race. I broadcast the television. I'm part of the television commentary team, and we had our studio right on the finish line. Last year, I have never seen anything like that. It was no longer a race. It was an extravaganza. It was a rock concert. It was a happening. For those of you who are my age, it was a Woodstock. It was incredible. There was music, fireworks. There were people battling to get to the finish line, everyone beating the common enemy, which is the clock. And it was just mind-blowing. And I thought this incredible event is no longer a race. It's no longer a race. Yes, there's some winners, there's some losers, there's some people who break records. But this is an unbelievable example of what South Africa could be. Unbelievable and so exciting. Can't wait for this year's race.
It's always the big question as to which is more important, the physical versus the mental for a race like Comrades. It's 90 kilometers long. Which one matters more, Bruce?
Well, if you're trying to win, you have to select your parents correctly. So it's genetic. So I chose the correct parents to be a very good Comrades runner and to run at speed for a long time. But you then have to have the mindset, because I took a route tour today. I took a whole lot of overseas runners over the entire route. Exhausting doing that. And I said to them, when you get to Pinetown after 70 kilometers, you will be surrounded by other runners, but you will never in your life have been so alone. And there in Pinetown, you will meet somebody you deeply respect and greatly admire, and that person will be yourself, because only you can get yourself to the end. And yet you will. You will. You will say, how am I going to do this? There will be a lot of bad language, and you will battle your way through to the finish, and you will say never, ever, ever again with bad language again. And then somewhere between an hour after you finish and a week after you finish, you'll be wanting to line up for next year's uprun.
Is that also where you hit the wall, basically around Pinetown, do you think? Is that usually the mark?
Well, hitting the walls normally when you kind of run out of blood glucose and stuff like that. But I would say, yes, it's a very low point. It's because you've run 70 kilometers, you've come down the bone-jarring Fields Hill, you've run some enormous mountains before you get there. You know, because it's a down run, everyone thinks it's down. But actually, for the first 55 kilometers, all you do is go up.
Yep.
You just climb. And then you plummet down to the Indian Ocean. And so when you get into Pinetown, your legs are completely broken. If you're very lucky, you're only losing 2 or 3 toenails. And you're completely exhausted. And now you get at the end of Pinetown, you have this monster hill called Cowie's Hill that you have to run up. And so it is a low point in the race because it's a point where you question your sanity.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people doing that. You've seen this race in its many facets, Bruce. This year, there's this cold front that's said to take over the country. Snow anticipated in certain parts as well. How treacherous can that be, or will that actually help produce faster times? Because you then warm up and you perhaps...
We've all been watching. So all the runners have been watching, and actually Sunday looks like it's going to be okay. The cold front is clumping in, so to speak, on Monday.
Yeah.
I think we runners are just going to get away with it. And in fact, the conditions might be coolish, but not freezing, which makes for great times. It does indeed make for great times when you have cooler conditions. I think the real dangerous cold front is coming the next day. But the runners are on tenterhooks at this stage, and they're looking at the weather forecast all the time, constantly looking at it. The down run is always cold in Pietermaritzburg at the start, dark and cold, and then it slowly warms up as you head towards Pinetown and you get into subtropical KZN. It starts to warm up quite a bit then.
Absolutely interesting. All right, so your money, who's it on? Who are the star candidates here? I mean, we've just seen the 2 Oceans Marathon, and as usual, again, the same people pretty much winning the women's races, especially. What is your money on here for the winners of both races?
Well, I'm going to be conservative and go with last year's champions successfully defending their titles. I think Gerda Steyn, the ladies champion who has now won 3, is in a class of her own.
Yeah.
And it's hers to lose. But of course, it's the Comrades Marathon, and a whole host of things can go wrong. But if she has a normal good run, she will win by 10 to 15 minutes, I predict. And then in the men's race, Piet Wiersma, who won last year by 45 seconds and was second the year before by 3 seconds. I've heard from Nick Bester, his manager and coach, that he is in red-hot shape. He's been training in the highlands in Kenya with Kenyan athletes, and he looks a very safe bet to defend his title, but he will have to race against Tete Dijana, who has won the last 2 down runs. And so it could come from then. But yet again, there is what we call the dark horse, a runner who none of us have heard of, who has hardly been on the radar screen, who is going to pop up there and be a significant factor in the race. And whoever that runner is, he or she knows that they're fit, but we don't yet.
Yeah, and we'll certainly see on Sunday then as well. Just very quickly as well, coaching, you spoke about Nick Bester, and he's very significant because he's somebody who's run the Comrades, achieved so much with it, went on to train some of the most successful athletes in the sport, including the likes of David Gitebe as well then. How important is coaching in the world of ultra-marathon running?
Well, I mean, here I am openly wearing my coaching T-shirt, so I coach quite a lot of athletes. It has become a very significant factor. In my day, there was no coaching. There was absolutely no coaching. We trained and coached ourselves, and we asked the old-timers for some advice about what they did. But now there's a considerable amount of coaching. Nick is the general manager of the Nedbank running team, and he's a past winner, so he knows what he's talking about. He advises a lot of his runners about how to do well, and I expect his team to be particularly significant in the men's race. But there are a lot of well-known coaches out there, and these runners you see here dancing in front of you, those are the runners who are going to be leading the buses. Those banners that they carry on their backs are the buses, and a bus is a group of like-minded people who want to run a certain time. So you saw those people dancing and singing because there was the 9-hour bus, there was the 10-hour bus, there was the 8-hour bus, and they're celebrating the fact that they've got this incredibly responsible job of taking people through for certain times that people want to achieve.
Yeah, those guys actually have a massive responsibility because you're carrying so many people with you on this journey, and you're trying to motivate and keep them up there as well. Bruce, let me just close off by asking first-time runners, novices, what is it that you would possibly say to them?
Okay, so I'm going to quote my mantra that I quote every single Comrades, and that is, Comrades does not reward the brave. It does not reward the outrageously courageous. It rewards the meek. And so the way you run a great Comrades is you start like a coward. You start slowly, full of introspection, cautiously. Be sure you can talk to somebody next to you. Be sure you're going up a steep hill, you can get involved in a conversation. It must seem so easy. And then, having started like a coward, you finish like a hero. So after you've got to Kearsney College, Bertha's Hill, and you're dropping down there, then you can start to pick up the pace with about 25 kilometers to go. And if you can't pick up the pace, thank goodness you didn't go too fast in the beginning. But if you've timed it correctly, you should be able to pick up the pace and run a slightly faster second half. And then you've had a great run.
Start like a coward, finish like a hero. Bruce Fordyce, absolutely incredible having a chat with you on this, the most significant and important ultramarathon race, I think, the world over, one might say. Appreciate your time here on Newsfeed PM, one of South Africa's most celebrated long-distance runners and a 9-time winner of the Comrades Marathon.